Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Woo Curious podcast. Your map to the mystical, your key to the sacred, and your guide back home to yourself. I'm Eileen, a writer, a spiritual coach, energy healer, and slow living witch. This podcast is your invitation to explore a world where the mundane and the sacred intertwine. It's a haven for those ready to take the first steps into the realms of magic and mystery, providing a safe space for you to embark on your own enchanted journey towards healing and self-discovery. Here, I'll unveil the whispers of the mystical, the rituals often hidden in plain sight, and I'll engage in sacred conversation intended to stir your soul and lead you back into your power. I'm all about demystifying woo and witchcraft. So, whether you're a seasoned seeker or simply woo curious, I'm so delighted you've decided to join me on this journey. Let's make magic. Hey Woo Crew, Eileen here. Is there a whispering inside you that life is meant for more magic, more embodied meaning, more connection with your intuition? If so, I want to invite you on a journey. I am once again opening the doors to Unleash Your Inner Witch, a beginner's course in witchcraft for the woo curious. Over the course of 6 weeks, we'll gather in small, intimate circle so you can explore tools like ritual, tarot, crystals, pendulum use, communing with your ancestors, connecting with spirit guides, altar building, cyclical living, and more. It's not about doing all the things. This course is really about coming home to yourself, trusting your inner knowing, weaving simplicity into daily magic. It's a way of being in the world. And whether you already feel drawn to magic but haven't been sure how to practice it, maybe you're curious but skeptical, or maybe you're a seasoned practitioner but you want to deepen your connection with self and in community, this container is for you. We'll meet live once a week for 6 weeks to connect. All calls are, of course, recorded in case you can't attend live. The group is small, maximum 12 women, to keep things intimate and safe. You get a workbook, you get a group chat to stay connected, and lifetime access to these recordings. If you're ready to step into more enchantment, deeper trust in yourself, and a life touched by ritual and meaning, I'd be honored to walk with you. The doors are open. Head on over to myluminouslife.ca/unleashyourinnerwitch to learn more and to sign up. Let's unleash your inner witch together. Hello, Woo Crew, and welcome back to another episode of the Woo Curious podcast. I am your host, Eileen, and I am here today with a guest episode with Deborah Weed. Deborah is the founder of the Self-Worth Initiative and the force behind the Quills Up Movement and Paisley the Musical, a bold rallying cry for women to reclaim their power, creativity, and self-worth. With decades of experience in marketing, entertainment, and personal reinvention, Deborah's work helps people rise from rejection, betrayal, and burnout. Her message: take your quills back and rewrite your story. Welcome to the show, Deborah.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so delighted to have you here as well, and I'm really looking forward to chatting a little bit about this play and all the work that you do in the world. I think there's a lot of alignment, and it's such a, it feels whimsical, and I love that because that's, my partner will tell you, it's one of my favorite words. It's whimsical.
Oh, I love that. That's a wonderful word to just, have in your heart.
Yeah, it feels fun and light and playful. And so, as I mentioned to you just before we dropped in to record, I always love to start these discussions, these conversations with a little bit about your experience with or journey into spirituality, because listeners will know that for me, spirituality found me late in life. And so I'm always curious when and how it landed for you, if it's something you've always walked with, or if it's, had a really big pivot at some point in your life, and how that leads into what you do in the world these days.
Well, thank you so much. I think when I was a little girl, I think that I had a sixth sense, and it was natural for me. Like something would happen and I'd know beforehand, but I was kind of embarrassed about that, and I hid that. And I think that I've hidden that for so much of my life because I didn't understand it. It was like, how can I know the future? How can it just like download or drop into me? So I think that I converted, let's call it, from spirituality to empath. I cared tremendously because I didn't know what to do with the spiritual piece, right? And because I was sensitive, and I think so many of us who are in the spiritual world are, I was made fun of when I was a little girl. And so I decided as I got older to go away from being an artist and being in that kind of realm and go into corporations, go into corporate. Because I thought, all right, I'll show you. Let me show you how powerful I am. And I think that's where I first had my first from spirit because I ended up with a misdiagnosis and I was in bed for 3 years. And during that 3 years, there's so many people who get offline for whatever reason. And for me, I lost a lot of the support. All the family and everybody that I thought would be there were not because doctors were giving me different diagnoses. And so nobody knew what to make of it. I mean, like, is she telling the truth? What's going on? And so when you are in bed all alone and you're losing family and friends, guess who the only, I almost said person because that's what it feels like for me, that you turn to. And there were times that I'd lie in bed and I'd be like, please take me. I don't understand why I'm here because I'm in tremendous physical pain. I'm in emotional pain. I want to make a difference and I don't understand. Now I do. Now I know that it was a huge spiritual pivot. It was the artistic, happy, whimsical kid that was the empath was being smushed by the corporate, I'll show you as the director of development for Citibank 19 branches and working on a $26 million pavilion for in Daejeon, Korea for Kia Motors. That is who I am so that I can be loved and I can be accepted. When I was in bed, it was actually a 1943 pure copper penny that God kind of dropped into my lap from the standpoint that I learned that this particular kind of penny could be worth $1 million. And to think that a penny that's worthless, essentially, but at the same time could be worth that much because it was a mistake, that really changed me in a big, gigantic way. And I think that I started to realize I gotta find out what is my worth. And I learned very quickly that, well, not quickly, it was 3 years, but that's not very quick. But I learned that there's a big difference between self-esteem and self-worth. Self-esteem is, let me do this thing so I can become amazing and I can show you who I am. Rather than self-worth is I get to claim how much I'm worth. And when you go to source and you realize how powerful we really are and how magnificent we really are, that changed my entire life. And I became the founder of the Self-Worth Initiative. So that was the beginning of, not the end, there's a lot more, but that was the beginning of my spiritual journey. To realize that a worthless penny could be worth $1 million. So what am I worth?
Oh, I love that. That's a beautiful story to have kind of that moment, right? That moment of clarity and reframe is really what that is. It can be so powerful. And so many of us walk around for so much of our lives without ever having the skills or the understanding of how we can change our lives by reframing the reality that we're in.
And sometimes it's so hard. Sometimes what feels like, I think I got confused because there was all this stuff about positive thinking. When you have the positive thinking, then you're going to be more spiritual. Then you're going to be cleaner, whatever it might be. But sometimes all that positive thinking is to get away with the whole of who we are. And I
Yeah.
looked up healing and I found out that healing actually means whole. And so if we have different aspects of ourselves that we can integrate, isn't that the highest level of spirituality? If we take all of us up rather than just part of us
Just the
and
light
bury the
parts.
right and then bury the
Yeah.
rest so that nobody can see it, so that we can be loved and accepted.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. You're touching on a point that I've spoken to before, both here and on my Instagram channel, with the idea of, that toxic positivity and how it can get, positivity is great. And there's like really dark, hard parts of life and ourselves too. And they're not less valuable or worthy. I think one of the things that pinged for me when you were saying, self-esteem versus self-worth, is that self-worth, it's innate. You don't have to
Exactly.
do anything to be worthy.
Exactly. But how often do we feel like we're really not worth anything because we're looking from the outside, like how do people treat us? And are they coming to love us? And if they're not loving us the way that we like, then do we predicate our worth on how they're treating us or what's inside of us going out? It's been a huge learning experience for me.
And is that what your play is about?
Well, okay, so I wanted to have a protagonist. When I started the Self Worth Initiative, I would do shows for kids and their families. And
Oh,
I
cool.
had lost so much power along the way. And I believe that so many people do, because most people think that they lose power because of fear, but that's not true. It's really because they've given their power away, quill by quill by quill. So I needed a protagonist that you could actually see that they were giving their power away. And I picked a
Right.
porcupine because a porcupine is supposed to put their back to the world, put their quills up, and that's their form of protection. And yet, for this porcupine, I wanted her to be in the fashion world because that way she could take her quills. Because in the animal fashion world, porcupines must give away their quills as pins to Zavana, who's the couture diva. So I really wanted that whole dynamic of what does giving one's power away look like. So I started with a children's book, and it's called
Yeah.
Paisley's Last Quill, and I wrote that, and it got all 5 stars. It was so beloved. And then mothers were coming back to me and they were saying, well, that's great, but what we need this book.
Right.
We give
How
our
do I
power.
get my quills back?
Exactly. So with that, after COVID, because I couldn't do a lot of the live shows, I have pivoted again, many times, many incarnations in my life, to do a full-scale musical to the size of, I'm hoping, Wicked, with magical realism, and just like make it so fantastic and really give people the whole idea of the journey experientially of what it's like to give your power away and looking for love to fit in, whatever it might be, rather than know your inherent worth. And that's where, of course, spirituality comes in. Because if you can live within your body in that way, right? I mean, you are all powerful because source is coming through you from the top and creativity is flowing out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that story that's so resonant. I love the imagery. I love the visualization. It's very evocative, right? It is. It's so easy to grasp that metaphor because I can imagine a naked porcupine. It's just, there's something so wrong about it.
Quills
And
do, quills do grow back.
grow back.
PETA, don't come
Oh, that's
after me. PETA, do not
right.
come after me. They will.
Of
No
course.
animal was harmed. Period.
No porcupines were harmed in the
Yeah.
making of this musical. Yeah. And I think there's something in your story that I mean, there's many things I think that will resonate with so many people, but the way you described, when you were really young, having that ability to be really intuitive, to be spiritual, to be connected, then being afraid of it because of other people's reactions, shutting it down, being that sensitive empath, shutting that down because, again, society is like, oh, that's a little bit too wishy. And then being like, F you, I don't know how you feel about swearing. I swear on this podcast.
That's okay. That's
You're
okay.
good? Okay. So like, fuck you. I'm going to prove myself because I'm a strong, capable woman. And so many of us are, but we are putting ourselves into these boxes to prove ourselves based on the standards of a patriarchal capitalistic society that we just don't, that's not who we truly are. And then, yeah, we end up sick because we're repressing our true nature. And so you obviously had a really profound spiritual experience of being sick, that long dark night of the soul, the epiphany of the penny. And I'm curious how, from that epiphany of the penny, how you started to reclaim your quills. How do you do that? How do you get them back?
Well, for me during that time period, I used creativity. That was the thing that saved my life, essentially. With that penny, I created a whole musical and a book. And once they figured out what had been wrong, then and that was taken care of, then I was able to use that creativity. So I would think that one thing is creative energy comes from above, right? And it flows in. They often say that if you have an idea, but you don't do whatever you are supposed to do, the next person is going to come up and you're going to be like, well, I came up with that. Yes, it dropped into you and you said, not yet, not now. So I do think that creativity is one way to actually get your power back. Another thing is to understand that nobody can take your power away. I have this thing called Quills Up Movement, and it's basically quills up because if you're giving them away, it's you giving them away to somebody else for a reason. And you can take them back, just like the quills grow back for the porcupine. Another way that I think that you get power is to understand that the body is definitely a chemical factory. And my dad has given me so much, it's so funny because he really had no spirituality at all, until towards the end of his life, where he would come back to me and say, well, talk to me about this. But he said that disappointment is one of the things that stop people all the time. And the reason why is because when you have feel-good chemicals and you're really excited and happy and things are going great, you've got the adrenaline, you've got the endorphins, you've got all these wonderful things going on. And then if you hit a wall, then all of those feel-good chemicals leave you. But then you say, okay, you don't really understand what's happening. All you feel is a sense of failure or why isn't this working? But you dust yourself off and you say, I'm going to try again. So off you go and you do the same thing, get really excited and the endorphins and everything. He said, but if this happens numerous times, and he was saying, to me, that people flatline. They'll never try again. And they don't even know why. And it's that loss of the chemical reaction. So, talking about power back, if we really are tapped into spirit, it's almost impossible to lose your power, isn't it? If you're really tapped in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what's striking me as you speak to that too is that disappointment, that loss of chemicals. So often it's the people around us who there's one of two things that can happen, right? We can have people around us who support us, remind us of that connection to source, to spirituality, to our power, because it's not gone. It's just we've forgotten the connection there often. And so often society's like, well, you probably shouldn't do that again because look how it turned out, right? We have naysayers around us.
The naysayers. Oh my God, I love that word. I used to use it all the time. Thank you for saying yes. There are so many naysayers that are not taking the risks, that are not out there doing what you're doing, that are saying stay in line, be like us because we don't want you. It'll make us look bad. I think life is an experiment to a certain extent. You've got to go for that big dream. We were all gifted with some kind of gem inside of us. And if we can find that and polish it and express it, maybe it won't work the way that we thought, but we will have no regrets at the end of our lives.
Yeah. Yeah, there's such a cultural norm of kind of trying to keep, sometimes it is like we don't want you to have power when we don't, or we don't want you to succeed where we don't. And often I think, with the people who are closer to us, it's like, we don't want you to hurt. We don't want you to encounter that disappointment. We're trying to keep you safe,
Wow,
right?
yes. That is so true. And I think one of the reasons that I did working on Paisley the Musical is because there's a lot of top models and couture designers and bullies and all kinds of things. And Zavana, who's the couture diva, kind of making these crazy Met Gala extravaganzas out of all flowers and everything to do with nature. Underneath her couture is her vulnerability. And that
Yeah.
does get exposed. And even with the top models, there's some animal top models who are like, they're fierce and all they want to do is climb to the top, But, it's like looking at every angle of all the characters, because at least for me, this is almost autobiographical,
Yeah.
because it's like each of the characters represents a different part of me and different part of
Yeah.
everybody.
Right. I love that. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. When is it
Thank
coming to
you.
Broadway? I know it's still in process, but I want to ask, what made you choose fashion? Because there's lots of industries that you could have used actors or musicians or like anything kind of public and forward facing, but why fashion?
Because, well, okay, let's go there. How
Yeah.
many influencers are committing suicide? What is beauty doing to women? How does our self-worth tie into what we wear? I don't know about you, but it's like you can go into a room and you see somebody who's gorgeous, has the clothes, the attitude, the face. Are they really happy? Are they spiritually connected? Talk about spirituality. Are they tapped
Yeah.
in? Or are they trying to use fashion and use that whole thing to hide something that's missing within them? And also, I love the idea, of I had to come up with an idea for a porcupine. What would be really that whole experiential thing of giving one's power away, and the whole
Yeah.
idea of repinning, because Zavana will come up with like with Tara. Tara is this white tiger. She's a top model. She's kind of a mean girl, but she has to wear like goldfinch and goldworm gowns, for example. And if you can imagine, it comes from the ceiling. It's huge. And she's like, get me out of here. This is not a tiger. Tigers don't wear this. And
Right.
Paisley is repinning things to suit her feelings and who she is, rather than having her fit into this whatever standards. So for
Right.
me, fashion had so many backstories and angles, and the beauty and the not so beautiful aspect that I thought would
Yeah.
really make something compelling and worthwhile. And because I'm a woman, and because of what I've gone through in corporate and everything else, I think that
Yeah.
that's another thing that fashion really excels at is, the whole female industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
It's true.
I have another one of the characters is named Ikru, and she's an elephant, and she's a plus size model with a plus size heart. So, I really want to look
Yeah.
at body positivity and all that.
Yeah. Oh, it's the perfect thing. I was wondering if maybe you had some sort of like background in fashion or, were really interested in fashion, or if it's just that particular industry captivated or was the perfect place to
Yes,
set this.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what it was for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm curious, the thing that I always have these little boop pop,
That's
like questions
awesome.
or
That's
curiosities
awesome.
that happen in conversation. Something that I think about often and speak to, probably not as often as I maybe want to, is the idea of, women looking like themselves and being women and aging like bodies age, and the way that the male gaze has really basically told us that our worth is in looking youthful, and that we are not worthy if we're not desirable. And so does that kind of weave into the story, or is it more of a kind of
Oh,
subtext, or is it right
it's
out front?
I guess it's both. It is a
Mm.
subtext and it's way out front. In this
Mm-hmm.
particular thing, I had, it's funny that you should even say that. I hadn't thought of ageism. I thought of everything else,
Mm.
but I hadn't thought of that. Maybe there's a character that needs to come in. Well, actually, there is. The wisdom keeper, the quill keeper.
Mm.
The quill keeper is kind of that wise voice.
Right.
So yes. But when it comes down to it, I'm 68 and I have had so many incarnations and so many successes in my life. And to go for my big over the top dream now, and I don't look like a model, but I'm doing this because I really want to make a difference in the biggest way that I can. And when I go to something like Wicked or The Lion King, and I'm taken away with all the magnificence and the stories, I sing the songs, happy
Yeah.
songs for that, and it subconsciously does something. I mean, singing, they say people who have had NDEs,
Mm-hmm.
NDEs, that the
Near death
sound that they
experiences. Yeah.
hear, that the sounds that they hear are just like unearthly and
Yeah.
spectacular. So I think that music is in our souls, and when we hear lyrics, music, and the whole thing, it's so different than just, a different kind of a production.
Yeah. Oh, I just got full body chills. That always happens when it's like a moment of like, yes, the music in our souls.
Music
I
in our souls.
did in my first degree. I have 2 degrees, one in religious studies and one in midwifery. And my first degree in
Oh,
religious studies, I did a project on music and religion. I was always fascinated about
oh,
religion from a cultural standpoint. And for me, I
wow.
was like, this is it's so ubiquitous across religions. There's music, and why does it, like, I've never been a churchgoer, but I hear choir music, and just like the power of it can make me cry. And so I love that you're choosing a modality that's not only visually stunning, but that it's bringing that, the potency of music and the way that it speaks to something deeper than our conscious brains.
Yeah, I had to, because one of the things when I did the shows for the kids and their families, I know that subconsciously for kids, if they keep on singing something, like you can say, so I could say to you, "You look great." Are you going to really feel that? But if you sing it
Right.
in any which way, and if it touches your heart, I don't know what it is, but it does. It goes through your
Yeah.
pores.
So do you have or a background rather in music, or do you have somebody you're working with to help you write the
Yes.
music for this?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. That part I don't. For the children's musicals, I composed and did everything on my own. For this one, kind of going for something bigger, I'm bringing in
Right.
a wonderful team. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
different aspect to it. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that when I was a little girl, I sometimes joke with my friends and I say, either I'm really going to get to Broadway and it's going to be as magnificent as I know it will be, or in another life, I was definitely on Broadway
On
and I have
Broadway.
a memory of it. And it's sort of like, hey, let me see if I can do it again. So one of the two.
Right. Yeah. And I have a little note from your intake form here saying building a Broadway dream with no budget and all heart. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about where are you on the journey, and how are things going, and how are you managing that?
Thank you. So what I'm doing right now is I'm putting together, to start out with, a conceptual album. It will have 5 songs that really give people, anybody, the sense of what the magnitude is. And
Mm-hmm.
on it, hand on heart, who I've, the small circle I've shared it with, they cry in the first song. They get it. They
Oh,
understand. So when something like that happens and I'm seeing it with my own eyes, I'm like, yes, I'm on the right track. Usually with a musical, it can take like 7, 10 years because you have to workshop it. You get the producer, you do this, you do that. Because I have nothing to lose, I'm doing it a different way. I'm trying to get the train moving before before anybody gets to the station, if you know what I mean. And so by
Yeah.
getting the music out there, that's what happened with Hair. Hair actually put their album out first. And when their album
Okay.
went out, that's how they got the theatrical thing going. So I'm inviting like singers like out there, your listeners might be one of them, like singers and
Yeah.
dancers and producers and investors and anybody. Please check me out because this is going to be the way that I look at it is almost a global collaboration. So once I get the
Mm.
5 songs out there, I've been working on the script. They call it a book, and getting all
Mm-hmm.
those pieces together. There's going to be 22 songs in all. The first
Wow.
5 are just conceptual, but once I'm able to work with, the major composers and some of the other things, they might be able to tweak it a little bit. And
Yeah.
then, and then one day you're there. Every night I go to bed, I lie down and I just like imagine what it's going to feel like to watch. And it's so funny because I don't know that I'd ever be watching the show. I'll be watching the people. That's my show. That's my show.
Yeah.
Did I
Yeah.
touch
Oh,
somebody?
amazing. Yeah. I'm getting so excited I can't wait to be able to be like, I had her on my podcast
Yeah,
before it was a
yeah.
thing. And please, when you are ready to share those 5 songs, please send them my way. I have a few people already pinging. I have a couple actor friends who've
Awesome.
who are in musical theater, and I would love to be able to share it with them. And of course, with the listeners, when it's live for the public, I'd love to promote it too.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I know I get excited. Like even our conversation, when I can see in somebody's eyes that they get it, it gets me
Mm-hmm.
so excited.
Yeah. And that's why we do the work that we do, right? And I think I love that you said, I have nothing to lose. I think you're bringing the wisdom of a woman in her wisdom years too, right? And
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I'm sure you've heard the saying go around and probably experienced it in a big way. The older we get, the fewer fucks we have to give. And it's like,
Oh, I didn't know that one. Is that? Can I use that one?
please
That is
run with it. I sure did not come up with it.
That is, and you know what? I think it's the truth. For me, I've had, on the other side, I've had a lot of trauma in my life, and I think that that's my motivator, ironically, because
Right.
it's like when you get to that point where you've been knocked down so many times, it's like, let the magic flow through me, and let it touch
Yeah.
lives. And every night when I put my head on the pillow, please God, let it be that I touch somebody's life. Just one person. It's enough.
It is. It creates the ripple that can change the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Deborah, for everybody who's listening who desperately wants to go check out what you have available to follow along, to help out where there is alignment, how do they find you? How do they check out more information about Paisley the Musical and your work?
Thank you. They go to www.paisley'sfashionforest.com. And there's one part of it where there's a form, and they can fill that out and share their interest or what they do, or they can go and DM me on anything on Instagram. It's Deborah.Weed, so it's at Deborah. And Facebook, just Deborah Weed.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And all of the links will be below in the show notes as
Thank
always. So it makes
you.
it nice and easy for listeners to find you and get a hold of you. Is there any last words or sentiment or anything that you want to share with listeners before we wrap up today?
Yeah, that everybody's magic, that everybody has the magic within them, and that if they can tap into that and really understand that they will find, well, if nothing else, it would be an exciting journey.
Yes, it will. The quills up.
Quills up.
Oh, thank you so much for being my guest today, Deborah. This conversation was delightful, just delightful. And for all of the listeners out there, thank you for tuning in, for being here with us. As always, Please rate, review, like, subscribe, whatever is appropriate to whatever platform you're listening on. And I will see you back here at the same time next week. Bye for now.
Bye.